Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Moneycontrol live stream. You're watching Markets with Santo and CJ, a show where we talk about markets like never before. By the way, I am Chiranjeevi, and you may be wondering why I'm saying that, right? It is because I, CJ, will be bringing you markets from the perspective of the new school. With me is Santo. By the way, why are you here, Santo?
Hi, I'm Santosh Nair, and by the way, CJ, we've had this argument many times over. There's nothing like new school and old school when it comes to investing. There is investing, and there are just a same set of rules that have never really changed. So I'm here on this show to knock some sense into your head and teach you some of the time-tested lessons of the market.
Yeah, sure.
So I'll be here every day at 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. to do a sanity check.
Sanity check on me or on the markets?
Well, both.
Okay, enough. What do you have for us today?
So on this show today, we will be talking about rising US bond yields and inflation across the globe and how it's making things tough for equity investors.
Tough,
There's also be stock takes from me and CJ. In sectorology, we'll be talking about the cement sector today that's been in the news for quite some time now. And lastly, there's also some bit of andar ki khabar.
Yes. Well, Santo, it's a Tuesday, but it's not a very happy Tuesday, it seems. And that is why probably I'm wearing yellow today, because I want to send all the positive vibes towards Dalal Street, because it's not looking a pretty picture. And yeah, a lot of concerns on markets heads, and I'm pretty sure that you will be able to shed some light on it, because you're always so cautious and so concerned about the world and what the impact it will have on us.
Yes, CJ. So things are definitely not looking very bright at this point, and
Unlike me.
And I must hate to say that your yellow T-shirt won't do much about it. U.S. bond yields have risen to about 2.8%. They've topped 2.8%, in fact. And
3-year high?
3-year high, and rising bond yields, they are never a very good thing for equity markets. So initially, equity markets would love to ignore whatever is happening in the bond market. Also, U.S. consumer inflation numbers will be out today, and
critical.
The White House has said that they expect consumer inflation to be extraordinarily high because of the volatility you've been seeing in both food prices as well as fuel prices.
True.
And then there is also the strong dollar index, which is not exactly good news for emerging markets like India. So all put together, it does not seem to be a very pretty picture.
But I do have some good news. Crude oil market. Yesterday we had almost a 4 to 5% drawdown or decline in crude oil prices, both the Brent and the WTI futures that trade in the US. Brent crude oil futures actually moved below the $100 mark per barrel, $100 per barrel mark for the first time in weeks, after the Russia-Ukraine war. And it seems like maybe there is now time that market's fears around oil prices weighing on demand, on inflation, on companies' margins, all of that may start receding slowly and steadily.
Well, CJ, let me just point out here, the war between Russia and Ukraine is far from over. We've seen many falls down. So if you look at the targets that most crude oil analysts have set for this year, it's north of $100. Let me tell you that, CJ.
I take your point that Russia-Ukraine war, of course, there is no resolution so far in sight, but the concern here is now more on demand and supply. The lockdowns in China are getting, elongated and are getting more strenuous every day. I mean, what is happening to Shanghai right now has become global news, as you may know, and that is really making traders rethink whether the strong demand that everybody was talking about earlier this year, whether that will actually be there. I mean, if you have China, which accounts for almost 17% of the global GDP, slowing down, I mean, that is a big hit on demand.
Exactly, that's the point I'm trying to make, that it doesn't seem to be a pretty picture. You just said that.
For crude oil, but it might be a pretty picture for India. But that said, enough of the macro gyan, let's talk some stocks.
So TCS is very much the stock to watch. The company reported its fourth quarter of earnings yesterday.
And good numbers.
Fairly good set of numbers from TCS, so that's high up on the watch list. But the thing here is that while the numbers have been pretty much in line with what market and analysts were expecting, we have not seen any rush of upgrades on the stock. So the key challenges for the company at this point is attrition and also possible slowdown in Europe. That's why you're not seeing brokerages rush in to upgrade either earnings estimate for the stock or for that matter, even price target.
There is a reason for that, Santo. Of course, I mean TCS announced a buyback not so long ago, and that buyback has led to an uptick in stock price. But that said, if you look at the commentary and the deal size, I mean the company won almost two mega deals worth almost $1 billion, and I mean, if you look at the commentary that came in from the CEO, they are very, very confident on deal momentum and deal
Yeah, but
size.
what the analysts are pointing out is that much of it has already been factored in. So the fact that they were going to report good numbers in the year ahead is already known. Okay, second stock, Delta Corp. This is the stock you were pretty bullish on yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, right? Okay, the company's numbers, both bottom line and top line for the fourth quarter showed a decline. So the stock has risen close to about 30% over the last.
I don't know what happened there. I have no idea.
Yeah, so
I mean,
just
it's
don't
such a
get enamored
surprise.
by casinos and
Oh, okay.
Okay, so
They are enamoring, but I mean,
so
can't
the
help
stock
it.
had rallied about 30% over the last 1 month, and a lot of long positions built up there.
Yes.
Possibly you could see some amount of profit taking because of the disappointing numbers. Although for the full year the numbers are looking good. Then we have Mahindra and Mahindra. The stock too has been steadily rising over the past 5 sessions, despite overall market sentiment being weak.
Yeah.
And the company's top official was on CNBC TV 18
Okay.
channel last week.
What did
and
he say?
He was saying basically that the company has made market share gains in during March,
okay.
and also that he expects the agriculture season to be quite strong, the one
But-
coming up. And besides the outlook for the tractor segment, he said it's quite robust. Some slackness in the March numbers.
It's strange given
notwithstanding.
that given that the company, given that sales number, tractor sales number that we have seen coming in from Escorts and M&M also before. It's, I mean, you will have to take that with a pinch of salt.
Well,
whether
market is always
they will be able
forward
to-
looking, so I think
Yeah, possibly they're looking too forward, too far ahead.
AU
Who
Small
knows?
Finance Bank, this stock again has been steadily climbing in a fairly range bound market. Analysts are positive about the credit quality and now feel that this company could be one of the major beneficiaries of the recovery in economic
Yeah,
growth.
mid-cap bank on your list.
Small
Wow.
bank, yes.
Didn't
The
see that
company is
coming.
quite aggressive, has been quite aggressive
It has,
in its
it
growth
has.
plans. There was a slowdown during the pandemic, but now again analysts tracking the company feel that
There is a lot of buzz around microfinance also, so maybe probably AU is getting into being a part of that space also benefits it. But yeah, we'll see whether that works out in market's favor or not.
Ambuja Cements, the last stock on my plate, the stock saw a big move yesterday, close to about 7% jump. But interestingly, that's huge, supported by very huge volumes. And
Huge volumes and delivery volumes.
I mentioned this yesterday also that there's not exactly the time to be loading up on cement stocks, but there seems to be
Yeah, see,
Ambuja Cements is an exception.
the market
to
has
the trend.
forced you to bring a cement stock in your stock pick. See,
Well,
that is what the market does.
That's from my side, CJ.
So
what do you have?
my first pick, Santo, is going to make you proud. Asian Paints.
Wow.
I mentioned earlier in my opening statement remarks that crude oil prices were falling and saw deep cuts yesterday, and that is beneficial for Asian Paints because of course crude oil derivatives are a input for Asian Paints. Also, the stock has been seeing short covering the past few weeks, and I mean that has also happened in tandem with the decline in crude oil prices that we have seen from the top.
I don't get this, CJ. You first mention value investing, then you talk about short covering and those. See, so basically, it is some kind of a momentum buying, right?
Momentum is where the money is.
So let me point this out to you. You mentioned value buying, value investing, that's fine. But this is something even value investors right now are having second thoughts about because valuations have just gone through the roof. Yes, that's good. What's next?
They might be they are not having any second thoughts. The stock had corrected severely during during the rally in crude oil prices. So it is only natural that people will go buy Asian Paints, the company that has been delivering earnings growth even during the worst of time. I agree, margin pressure were there, but now with crude oil prices easing off, maybe those concerns will also taper off. Talking about the next stock on my list is Sandur Manganese. So this is a very curious case, okay, guys. The company has come out with a rights issue wherein it's offering investors a chance to lap up a stock that is currently has a market price of 4,500 rupees, Santo, at rupees 10 each.
I would be very suspicious.
You are always suspicious, but at 10 each, and the promoter has basically just given an early Christmas gift to the investors and said, see, if you don't take it, we will lap up everything that is unsubscribed. So, and of course, let's not forget that this company has a very good outlook. From if you speak to analysts and people who are tracking the space, it's one of those small cap, mid cap stories that is expected to have the same sort of a story that a lot of chemical names used to have. You remember 4 years ago. So yeah, and the biggest thing is here is that analysts are seeing EPS upgrades happening going forward, largely because the management is shifting its strategy from just basic commodity business that they had towards high value products. So that is something to really watch out for.
See, there's a saying, CJ, that there are no free lunches, and particularly in the stock market, that saying holds very
But
true.
nobody
So I really
minds.
wonder what is the reason for giving something which is available at 4,500 to 10 for 10 rupees.
Well,
Now, there was a lot of debate on Twitter over this
Acha.
development, and some of the market experts pointed out that this is being done by the management so that they can raise their stake, because what happens often is that a lot of shareholders don't bother to update their address or are not aware of this rights issue. What happens is the unsubscribed portion then gets taken up by
that is true, but Santo, that is why you and I are here, no?
To
That
educate
is
the
why
investors.
we have told investors today, we have made them aware, and now maybe a lot of the investors who were not aware, allegedly, probably would be aware thanks to us. So that said, Paytm, I know you're already frowning, but Paytm, the stock rose 12% yesterday in trade, backed by heavy volumes. It's now up around 32% from record lows, Santo.
Yeah, but it is also about, if I'm not mistaken, about 60% of its IPO price. Is there another way to look at the same thing?
Okay, I have a saying for you. You keep
Really?
on bombarding me with sayings. I
Really?
have a saying
Let me
for
hear
you.
this one.
If you're comfortable owning a stock, you will never make big money.
Oh,
And
wow.
that is a market maxim.
Oh wow, I'm impressed, I must say.
Yes, thank you, thank you. Coming back to Paytm. So the company's management, of course, if you remember last week, came out with a release saying, that it will turn profitable in 6 quarters. So fundamentally also, it seems like the company has now got the message from investors that it needs to show how its profits are going to come and what timeline the profits are going to come. So seems to be some confidence recovery happening here, or repair happening here.
Repair, that is the word.
Repair,
Anyway.
yeah, of course, repair. I mean,
Yeah.
you have to give it. The confidence was lost on Paytm, but it seems like some repair is happening, and we'll see how long that lasts. IRCTC, the stock has seen positive momentum over the past 2 sessions. Its Q4 earnings are going to come, and if you go by the sort of buzz we have seen around travel stocks, lately, I mean, Q4 was all about reopening, all about people making travel plans, families, young ones, everybody. And
Old ones, you didn't mention that.
I said
Anyway.
families. I
Yeah.
said families. So yeah, people are expecting strong earnings, and therefore it is very likely that IRCTC will be one of those buzzing stocks in trade today. Lastly, Anand Rathi Wealth. Okay, so this is something that is part of those, the capital market industry. Capital markets, as we know, the past 2 years have all of the stocks, the brokerages, the wealth management guys, all of them have made a good amount of returns over the past 2 years. And its Q4 earnings are going to come out later today. And last quarter, it's of 144% growth in PAT, and it is likely that we may see a similar sort of growth. But the curious thing is that the stock has risen only 3% in the March quarter. So maybe there is potential that market may have underplayed the strong earnings potential, and we may see a good move if the management surprises on the upside.
Well, mentioning of broking stocks, there's this funny quote that I came across yesterday.
Funny quote on you?
Yes.
Wow.
It's a quote by Jason
All
Zweig, I
yours.
think so. It
Okay.
says that, options trading helped me put 2 sons through college. Just
Okay.
that it happened to be my broker's sons. so that should tell you something about
Yeah,
the
but if
broking
you buy
industry.
brokers, if he bought brokers shares, no, so maybe he could have also sent his kids to or sons to college. So anyway, stocks, to ho gaye Santo, sectorology kare.
Yes, so cement has been in the limelight for about a month
The
or so.
entire past week,
Yeah.
3 weeks, yeah.
And good moves, good strong moves there in most of the cement companies. It's a little strange that the investors are bullish on cement at this point, given that oil prices, crude prices are rising. Input costs for cement companies have gone up, and clearly that points to pressure on their margins.
You're not convinced at all by the market's
No.
move, right?
And
You're not convinced at all.
so there's a note by Axis which says that demand in the rural area has still not picked up, but overall most brokers seem to be pretty
Yeah,
much positive on the
I
sector.
think that, I take your point that of course margin pressures are there, and maybe rural demand has not picked up because there has been we all know that there has been slowdown in the rural economy, but urban and semi-urban demand has been pretty strong. And the same, report that you're talking about from Access Securities also mentioned that real estate could be a key driver of demand going ahead. People have been buying houses. We know the sentiment is very, very strong. If you speak to a lot of the updates that have come from real estate companies, they are very bullish on consumer sentiment. So real estate could be a really big demand driver. And remember, we have not yet seen the beginning of the capex cycle. I mean, a lot of the analysts, who are looking at 2 to 3 years ahead, they have been talking about how the capex cycle, especially from the private sector, could be the big catalyst for volume growth in this industry. IIFL, in fact, has said that the next 2 years could see robust volume growth. And that then defends the point that with input prices rising, probably cement companies have the leeway to actually raise prices.
Well, market has opened, and as expected, it's a bearish start to the day. Nifty is down by about 100 points. Sensex is down by about 360 points.
Not looking good, Santo.
Yes, early trade, but it pretty much there is, I think, not too many reasons for the market to go up.
Possibly. I mean, I think it's all the macro concerns that you talked about has probably spooked investors and are still weighing on investor sentiment. And I mean, today even the mid cap and small cap space are also not doing well. I mean, yesterday they were outperformers, so we had some cause for optimism. Yeah, but right now it doesn't look that.
And
great.
Just an update here: IT stocks under pressure. TCS and Infosys too both have opened in the negative territory. Early trade, there's still about 4.5 hours.
Yeah, I mean, probably, that move on TCS was expected, given that it's, GDRs that are traded in London were actually pointing towards a negative opening. So, by the way, that said, opening bell is done, but andar ki cover kar le?
Well, it looks like Veranda Learning Systems could be in limelight today also. Big discrepancy between the NSE and BSE prices. We don't see this kind of a huge discrepancy on day one, but
yeah, what 33, 34 rupees?
Yes, that's huge. Now we've looked at the bulk deal data, and here's the interesting part. So one of the sellers in the stock was Nomura Singapore. Now I always thought that when you have an institutional investors, typically they tend to hold shares.
They sold about what, 900,000 shares or more?
Close to about 1 million shares.
Oh wow!
And it seems like many HNIs too, tried to sell out in panic. Probably that could explain why. There was a sell order from Rajasthan Global Securities.
Yeah, exactly.
About close to about
1.9 million shares or something like that.
Close to 20 lakh shares there.
20 lakh shares
and that at 125. I think that is what would have spooked.
Yeah, exactly. Because the IPO
the
price was what, 137. The issue price was about 137. So they sold it at 12 rupees discount.
Yeah, a huge jump. So I think huge discount. Sorry. So that is what probably would have spooked other traders and caused the prices to crash on.
I also have an andar ki khabar, by the way, for you, Santo. Okay. So there's a stock called KIC Metallics. It's basically it's involved in the pig iron business, production business. And curiously, if you look at the past 1 month's disclosures that have been coming in, the promoters of the company have been accumulating a lot of the shares of the company. Okay, and we have seen basically pig iron prices rise globally. Why? Because of the Russia-Ukraine war and supply constraints. So therefore, we had seen a jump in pig iron prices. And I can't help but think that probably the accumulation of shares is maybe hinting towards management's view of a good quarterly earnings that may come out in the March quarter. Right now, the promoters are holding over. Their stake has jumped from around 60% last quarter to a little over 63% right now. So yeah, I mean, some big moves from the promoter there. So that is something that you guys should really keep your eyes out on.
Well, with that, we are running out of time for now. Market continues to be under pressure. Wipro and Tech Mahindra all down by about 1% each. Sentiment for tech stocks clearly negative. Yeah. We'll be back again at 3 p.m. with more updates on the market. In the meantime, stay logged on to moneycontrol.com.
And don't forget, please post your feedback on the comment section and the hashtags that you're seeing below your screens. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Have a good day.